jainworld.com 25 years of service to Jainism.
Jai Jinendra, good evening and welcome to you all. Mokshamargasya netaram bhetaram karma bhubhrutam jnataram vishwatattvanam Vande Tadgunalabdhe Vande Tadgunalabdhe. During the 10 days of internal purification, internal flowering, internal blossoming of ourselves, we are continuing with the fourth petal of our inner purification, Uttam Shaucha Dharma, that is in pursuit of supreme purity. As we have seen, the four passions, which is anger, ego, dishonesty, and greed, and the four petals of inner purity, supreme forgiveness, modesty, honesty, and supreme purity. So these four are antidotes for the four passions. The anger, the antidote is forgiveness. Ego, the antidote is modesty. Dishonesty, antidote is honesty. And greed, the antidote is purity. And so to achieve purity, first we need to understand what is greed. What are the deep roots of greed? Different layers of greed, so that we can slowly go to the purity and supreme purity level. So to understand purity and supreme purity, we need to first understand the greed. And as we have seen, that like a tree, its roots are inside the ground, not visible to us. But the tree trunk, the branches, the leaf, the flowers, the fruits, they are outside over the ground and we can see them. But the real life, the life juice for the tree comes from the roots, which are not visible. Similarly, in our life, the roots of passions are inside us, inside our inner, in the Unter-Atma. And its manifestation takes place in the outer, in the Bahir-Atma. So that manifestation is visible to us. We can see that. But the roots of the passion which are in the inner, they are not directly visible. But the purity has to be done. The treatment has to be done at the roots. And so for purification process, as we have seen, as Bhagwan Mahavira has told us, that you transcended Bahir-Atma, transcended the outer, and go into the inner, go to the Unter-Atma, and then you start the purification process. So every time we need to remember the real purification is going to happen in Unter-Atma, in the Antar-Jagat, in our inner space. And so we need to find tools and techniques to transcend it from the Bahir-Atma to Unter-Atma. And we have seen those things earlier. But today, let us focus on the grid. So once we understand the grid, we will be able to find the ways and means to transcend the grid, to overcome the grid and go to the purity and supreme purity level. So we go back to a story which happened about 1100 years back. A big statue was being created. And this is the story of Bahubali, the statue of Bahubali, the statue of Gomateshwar, which is at Shravanabelgola in India. And this statue was being crafted out by a sculptor and his team, a Murtikar and his team. And Chamundaraya, who has blessed this project, and he provided all the facilities to all the workers involved and the main Murtikar, and they were given all the facility, housing and food and medical attentions if needed, and entertainment facilities and everything. So they don't have to go anywhere for anything. They were there at the site where this big statue was being carved out. And the main Murtikar also was staying there. And he was staying with his old mother. And so the work started on the statue. And Chamundaraya had declared that the wages for the people will be, for especially the Murtikar and other people, will be equal to the stone dust which they take it out. So a statue was being carved out of a mountain, and the big mountain stone and any stone particles which were chipped out to carve the statue, they will be weighed in the evening, and equivalent amount of gold will be given. So I think first time in the history people were paid so much generously and in such a generous way. And that happened almost 1100 years back. So the work started nicely, and Chamundaraya's wife used to personally supervise, and she would be there whole day to find out if anything is needed or any food items or any other equipments needed or any medical. So she used to take care of everybody, and she is watching these people and this Murtikar doing the work. And things went on nice for a few days. And one night this fellow, Murtikar, let us call him X. So this fellow X was sleeping, and in the dream, he saw a dream in which his right hand was hurt and got a paralysis, and then he was not able to work after that. He woke up and it was just a dream, and his body is perspiring and his body is shaking, and he sat there and thinking, and he said, yeah, this is a dream, but if in reality this happens, then what? Then all the gold I was about to earn by making this statue, that will be lost. Because he was in his mind, he had already calculated how much gold he will get. Because he knew the stone and he knew how this statue will come out, and he approximately knew how much the wastage would be, how much the stone crush and smaller stone pieces which are coming out will be there. So he measured and he had calculated roughly that he will get so much of gold. And now he suddenly thought that if really something happens to my right hand, by which I make this beautiful statue, and if my right hand is not working, I can't do anything. And then he thought of a trick. He said, instead of cutting out small stone, what I will do is, I will try to make the gold faster. So I will first work on the pieces which are big pieces. So a big piece of stone will come out and he will get that much gold. So an evil thought entered into his mind. A dedicated murtikar who is making that statue, a dedicated craftsman who is making that statue, has now become greedy, now become evil. And so he started taking out bigger stones. But the Chamundra's wife, he was observing, and he knew something is wrong with him, because today he is working in a totally different way. He is very nervous and he is very shaky and he is not able to look into the eyes. He is hiding his eyes away. And 1 or 2, 3 days passed like that. And this fellow is now working on cutting out the bigger stone. He is not worried about how good the statue will be. And his mother also observed that he is not sleeping properly and he is totally disturbed, upset. And in his eyes, she could see the evil. She could see the guilty feeling. And so this woman talked to Chamundra and said, I think this fellow needs more gold. So you please announce that he will get double the quantity. Earlier he used to get as much the stone, but you now announce that you get double. But that night, this Mr. X could not sleep, and his mother was watching. And his mother woke him up and said, son, there seems to be something wrong with you. Your eyes are not clear. Your eyes are not honest. Tell me what's happening. And this fellow now started crying. And he went and put his head on the lap of his mother and said, describe the whole thing. Said, this is my thoughts and this is I have been working. And his mother told him, look son, this knowledge of creating a statue has come to you. This is the family knowledge. Several generations of ours have been making the statues. And they were making it excellent, par excellence. And that knowledge has come to you. So it is not your knowledge. It is the family knowledge. And you want to misuse it. You want to damage the tradition, the reputation our family has, that we make the best statues in the world. And slowly, slowly, this fellow's eyes got cleared. He got a stable thinking. And next day morning, and there is to be meeting every day morning to review what is happening. And so next day morning, Chamundra personally came and he declared that, guys, as you will get double the gold quantity than what you were getting so far. But this Mr. X got up and he said, look, from today onward, I am going to work free. I am not going to take any compensation, anything in return for doing this job. And because I got into a greed-like situation, my mind, my heart, my thinking became greedy, and this is what I was going to do. But from now onward, I am not going to take any compensation. This is not work for me now. This is a worship for me now. And I am going to create the best statue in the world. This is my objective now. And then he worked with 100% dedication, without caring for money, without caring for name, without caring for anything. And he requested Chamundara that my name should not be associated with this statue. This is my request. So now I can work with full dedication, without wanting anything in return. I don't want the name, I don't want the money, I don't want the reputation. My only objective is to create the best statue in the world. And then, friends, we all know a statue created 1100 years back is still the best statue in the world. No one could do a better statue than he has created. Luckily, he overcome the greed. But if he would have gone on the path of the greed, he would have damaged the statue. He would have damaged the reputation of him and his family, and would have felt guilty all his life. So the roots of the greed are very, very deep. You know, there are multiple layers of the greed, and we slowly and slowly will try to understand more layers of this greed. But greed definitely, makes us lose our power of thinking, makes us lose the morality, makes us lose the value system. And one has to be very, very guarded. One has to be very, very alert. One has to be always watching. If we get influenced by the greed, you must be very, very alert and watching, so that you can retrieve yourself from that type of situation. And greed, another important point is, greed comes like a small seed, very, very small, but in no time it becomes a big tree. It becomes unmanageable. And we think oh, it is just a small thing. And I will just only, I am just asking for such a small thing, and it is not greed. But the greed always comes like a small seed, and we have to be very, very alert in watching. And this one man called Kapil, long, long back, he was very, very poor, and he used to have problem feeding his family, and sometimes they will get the food, sometimes they will not get the food, and they may get good clothes, they may not get. So really very bad situation. And so one night he was praying and he said, oh, please be merciful, oh God, and I don't want much. I am not greedy like all other people around me. I am a simple man and I just want some food for my family, maybe just enough for a month. And please be kind, be merciful, and please give me that food. And he went to bed. And then he got a dream. In the dream, the God told him that you go to the king and he will give you the food for 1 month. And because the king used to give whoever come first in the morning, he will fulfill his wish. That was his sort of routine. So this fellow Kapil got up and then he went early morning to the king, and because he was the first person, so as per the rule, king said, okay, tell me what is your wish and I will fulfill it. And this fellow is sitting and thinking what to ask for, whether to ask this or that or that. And so king is so busy, and he said, okay, you cannot decide. So I grant you a permission that you think for 1 day and tomorrow you come. And instead of today, I will fulfill your wish tomorrow. Just as a special case, I'm granting this to you. And so king went with all his other busy schedule. And this fellow came back home. And his wife said, what happened? What did you bring? Oh, he said, I couldn't think what to ask. And so king asked me to think for 24 hours and then come. And then they sat all day and created a list of what they should ask and what they want and what they want. And in the evening now, these people are sitting and this fellow couple is thinking. And first they said, we will ask for food for 1 month. Then he thought, why, this is a golden opportunity. Just we'll ask for 1 gold coin. So 1 gold coin in those days will take care of his 1 year's requirement. And so he said, yeah. Then slowly he said, oh, I am so stupid. The king is telling me to ask anything and he will give. So then slowly he started adding more things and more things and more things to that. And by the time it was midnight, he said, I think it is better I ask him half the kingdom. After all, why he needs the full kingdom to himself? He can easily give me half. And like that, when he is in the morning, he said, okay, I think it is better I ask the king whole kingdom and give some small part of it to him. The greed, which came like a small seed, that a requirement for 1 month's food, within 24 hours, it expanded to take the whole kingdom. And so he went to the king and said, look, I do not need anything because I have seen what is happening to me in the last 24 hours. And there is no limit to the greed. I will keep on asking more and more and more. And I had a thought to ask your whole kingdom. So, the greed comes as a small seed, but it keeps expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding. That's why Bhagwan Mahavir pointed out that Ichha Agasa Suya Anantaya means our desires are bigger than the sky, like a sky, never ending. Even if we get the whole world, our desires are not satisfied. And so, to understanding the greed, we need to understand the second layer also, which is, it will come as a small seed, but it will keep expanding, and it will never be fulfilled. We may think many times that if I get so much, then my greed will be over. Because today I have much less. And so I want more and more. But that is not the case. Even if you have a lot, the nature of the greed is very, very simple. The moment you get what you have wanted, for the mind it becomes small. And then it asks for the bigger. And if you get that bigger, as soon as you get that, it becomes small and insignificant, and you want still bigger. So even if you are a king, powerful, so much wealth, so much of everything, you still want more. Shahanshah Akbar, his empire was vast, his treasure overflowing with gold, silver, diamonds. All the best people working for him, and all other things he had. So a fakir called Farid, and he was staying in some small village, but Akbar used to call him a guru, and whenever Akbar is passing by, he will go and pay his respect to Farid. So Farid had to go to the capital, and the people from the towns came and told him, see, we don't have a school in our town. And says, you are going to the capital and meeting Akbar. If you tell him, he will definitely make arrangement for a school. So Farid agreed. And when he went to the capital, he first thought of going just like that. But then he said, maybe Akbar is a king, and kings are whimsical. So he may say yes, he may not say yes. And so I will go in the morning 7 o'clock, when anyway, any person coming at that time, he fulfills his wish. So even if he will not respect me as a visitor first visitor at 7 o'clock in the morning, he will. So that way, I am taking precaution. So he went the next day morning. He just reached little before 7, and Akbar was finishing his morning prayer. And Akbar is facing this side, and Farid had come and is standing behind him. And Akbar, in his prayer last, he used to say, "Oh God, please protect my empire. Oh God, give me a bigger empire, give me more money, and give me more wealth." So that is how he used to close his prayer, by asking the mercy from the God. And Farid was there, and he heard that prayer, and he returned and he started coming out of the palace. And Akbar knew why he is standing there. As soon as he finished, he turned back and he saw Farid going. So he came running to Farid and said, "What happened? Why you are going?" Farid says, "Look, I came here thinking that you are a king, that you are powerful. And so I wanted to ask something from you, for the town, not for me. But when I came here, I realized you are a beggar." Akbar was shocked. He said, "What do you mean I am a beggar? I have so much wealth. I have so much power. I have such a big kingdom." Farid said, "That is not the point. You are asking something. And when you are asking, it doesn't matter what. When you are asking something from somebody, you are a beggar. And why do I want something from a beggar? You are asking something from the God, so I will ask directly from him." And so Farid went back. So the greed is not dependent on how much you have. Don't anytime assume that if you get something or this much and then your greed will go. No. The greed is very, very deep-rooted. And there are many different ways the greed will make us do certain things which we could easily avoid. Like there was no need for Akbar to ask for something more. But by doing that, he has become a beggar. So a subtle layer of greed has to be, understood. And that's why we need to remind ourselves, be alert, be cautious, So Bhagwan Mahavir says that even you make the whole Himalaya of the gold, the complete Himalaya, you convert into a gold, pure gold. And like that, if you give thousands and thousands of Himalayas, which are totally gold, a greedy person will never be satisfied. So it is not how much is available, because a greedy person doesn't look at what he has got. He looks at what he has not got. And so a greedy person is not able to enjoy what he has got because his focus is on what he is not having and how he can get that. So in reality, no matter how much a greedy person has, he is always a poor person, as if he has nothing. Because whatever he has, he is not able to enjoy because he is focused on what is not with him. So in reality, it really doesn't matter. So if he has a gold brick, he will keep in the safe, and that brick is lying there. So it doesn't matter whether that brick is made up of a gold or it is made up of a mud, because it is sitting there. The money is sitting there. The gold is sitting there in the safe. So unless you use your wealth, it has no value. Absolutely no value. It is just lying there. So that brick is lying there. So a miser is always a poor person. No matter how much money he has, no matter how much gold and diamonds and silvers and other property he has, he is a very poor person. Because unless you are able to use it, it has no real value. The value is only on the piece of paper. The golden brick is lying in the safe. Unless it is used, its value is zero. It is as good as a brick made up of mud. The other important aspect of greed is that it brings fear to you. Because you have accumulated so much and you are not using anything. But now you have to make the arrangement to protect what you have got. Because otherwise a thief will come and take it. Because you have so much money, somebody will come and kill you to take the money. Somebody can kidnap you. So there is a fear factor. Greater the money, bigger is the fear factor. And then you have to worry how to keep that safe. So you are accumulating, you are not using it at all. And on the top of that, you have this fear, you have this anxiety, you have this uncertainty. How to protect this? And how to protect myself? Because somebody may come and kill me for the money. And so this one monk and his disciple, they are going as olden time. So they are walking and they are walking through the forest. And the senior monk, who is really old enough, and the junior monk who is very young. The senior monk has a bag on his shoulder, hanging from his shoulder, and there is something inside the bag, and every few minutes he is asking the junior, his disciple, I hope there is no fear here. I hope we are safe walking through the jungle. And this happened 2-3 times. the younger monk, who is a disciple, he said, why a monk should be afraid of anything? After all, we are monks and we should be fearless. And he's thinking and thinking and thinking. And after some time, they see a well is there. And so senior monk says, yeah, I am very thirsty and you must be also thirsty. And here is a water well is there. So let us drink some water and let us refresh ourselves, and then we continue walking. So as they went to the well, and the senior monk had to go to the nature's call. So his bag, he gave it to the junior one and said, keep it properly, just take care of it, It's very important. And he went for the nature's call. The junior monk opened the bag, and to his surprise, there was a brick, golden brick made up of gold. Now he understood why this old monk was worried, why he was asking the question, I hope there is no fear, I hope we are safe. And he immediately understood what is the problem. So he did a quick trick. He took out that golden brick and threw in the well. And then he took out similar brick which was lying around the well and put it in the bag and closed the bag. And the old monk came and checked the bag, and yeah, there is a brick and all that. And then they started further journey. And again, after 10 minutes, the senior monk is asking the same question. I hope it is safe and there is no danger. And again, after 10 minutes, the monk repeated the same thing. So the junior monk, the disciple, started laughing. He said, you don't worry. All the danger I have thrown in the well, and we are totally safe now. The senior monk did not understand what he is saying. He said, what do you mean? No, I said, all the danger I have left behind, so now we have no danger. Suddenly the monk realized. He opened the bag and found the golden brick is gone. And then he realized his mistake, that all along he was carrying ordinary brick and still getting tense, still getting fearful, still worrying about the safety. So greed definitely brings uncertainty, definitely brings the fear factor, and definitely brings the danger. So we need to watch the moments in which the greed takes over, makes us slave, makes our thinking camouflaged. We lose our alertness, we lose our awareness and get into the tricks of the greed. So Bhagwan Mahavir says that one of the reasons why greed comes is pramad. That is, you are asleep. you are not alert, you are not awake, you are not watchful. And he says, be apramatta, means get rid of these things and be always alert, be always watchful. Observe closely what you are doing. And with that awareness, with that watchfulness, gradually you will be able to understand different layers of greed. Greed has multiple layers, and you need to unwind layer by layer by layer, so that at one point in time the greed can disappear. It's like onion. You remove one layer and the greed is there in the other layer, and you remove that layer and greed is there in the third layer, and you remove that layer and greed is there in the fourth layer. So greed is there in our thinking also. It is deep rooted also in our unconscious mind. So to understand that, we have to go deeper and deeper and deeper and be watchful. Whenever greed is there, watch the root cause. Why I am feeling greedy at this point in time? And this way, we will be able to understand the layers of the greed. We think if we collect so many things that we are the owner of that. And I own so much, and so I am secured. One of the reasons why we get more greedy and keep accumulating the things which may never use is because we think with more things we are secured. And Jainism has a very beautiful principle, and we need to keep that in mind all the time. And I think if we keep that simple principle all the time in our mind, in front of our eyes, fresh in our mind all the time, not out of sight, not out of mind, then I think we will be able to understand and get rid of greed in a big way. That principle is very, very simple. So normally we think that what we accumulate, I am the owner of that. So now let's take a small example. There is a big bank in the downtown, in the big city. And that bank has a lot of cash dealing. And they have big lockers inside. And several people have locker there. And each locker may contain millions of dollars worth of wealth, or some important diamond or necklace or gold or whatever. So outside the bank there is a security guard always. Around the clock they have that bank protected with the security guard, armed security guards. So wealth is there, a lot of wealth is there, and it is protected by arms guard. Now what Jainism says is, whatever you have accumulated with you, and there is a small portion which you give to somebody out of that. So Jainism says whatever you have given, whatever you have donated, you are the real owner of only that much. That which you were able to give, you are the real owner of only that. And rest of what you have accumulated, you are like a bank security guard. You are just protecting it like a security guard. And that wealth is really not yours, because it is just lying there. You are not able to use it. So you are just like a security guard. And that, only that which you have given, you are the real owner. So if we understand this principle of ownership, I think our desire to accumulate and keep accumulating and accumulating will be greatly reduced, because then our concept of ownership itself will change. And then you will be more generous to give to others. And then you will find that what you are trying to accumulate is really not required, because your ownership now is in giving to others, sharing with others, helping others. And that is the real wealth. And so if we remember that, that is a good antidote for the greed. And I know it is difficult. I know it is very difficult to do that. But greed, as we have seen, friends, brings the fear, brings the uncertainty, brings the anxiety, keeps you poor all the time, because you do not enjoy what you have got. You do not give it to others. You do not use it. So all that wealth which is lying with you, lying around with you, accumulated, lying in the safes, lying in the bank lockers, really its value is zero. Its real value to you is zero. And that's why they say a miser, a greedy becomes a miser. A person who is too much greedy, he becomes a miser. And a miser, not only he lives in misery, pain and suffering, he creates hell around himself, but he also creates the hell around, all the people who are along with him, his family members. Because he will not also allow them to enjoy, to use. And so this miser had a son, only one son. And anytime he asks something, the miser will find a reason to avoid giving him anything. A miser will find a reason to postpone it. A miser will find a reason to tell him some story. Oh, not now, I will find this. Or this is like this and this is like that, and why you should not be spending, and what you can do and what you cannot do. And so his, family will always be suffering. They will be passing through the agony, uncertainty, frustration, inferiority complex. And so no matter how much you have, doesn't make you rich. It is your inner richness that really makes you rich. We know a lot of examples of people having a lot of wealth, but they are not able to enjoy anything. Nizam of Hyderabad is the story in 1947 when India became independent, and Nizam of Hyderabad was one of the richest person in the world at that time. So much of wealth he had. But they say he was living like a very, very poor. His clothes used to be torn. And still he will not get the new clothes for himself. He was a smoker. So when he wanted to smoke, he will cut the cigarette into 3 parts and then put 1 part in the cigarette holder and then smoke. So much of wealth, the richest man around that time. But because he was very greedy, he became so miser. He ruined his own life and he made the life miserable, hell for those who are in his family. So awareness is the solution. We need to start going deeper into the layers of awareness. Try to understand it, and as we understand that each layer of greediness brings only the misery, only the pain, only the suffering, only the agony, only the fear, only the uncertainty, then you are wise enough to drop that layer. And for that, again, as we said, the purification process, the inner blossoming, inner flowering has to happen in the inner. From outer, there is a reflection, there is a manifestation of this in the outer. So you start studying in the outer, but you need to move to the inner to understand the roots, from where that is coming, what is causing that greediness, and there will be multiple reasons, multiple situations why that greediness is coming. And so you need to analyze layer by layer. Become apramatta. Don't be intoxicated and sleepy. Be alert every time. Apramatta. Be watching the deep roots, and slowly, as our understanding about the roots of greediness, we understand it more and more, those layers will start dropping, and then our life will become much better, a happier life. A flowering will take place, and the flowering of 10 petals. This is the 4th petal we are trying to understand. But as we have discussed earlier, the flowering is one process. All the 10 petals are blossoming simultaneously. It is not that one petal blossoms and after that blossoming is or the second and then the third. No, it is not in sequence. It is the flowering process, blossoming process. So all petals. So we are working together on all the petals. And so this blossoming process has to be understood. And so far we covered the antidote for the 4 passions: anger, ego, dishonesty, and greed. And these antidotes, if we apply, slowly, we will be able to purify ourselves and minimize the impact of this. As we have said, Anantanubandhi, that is very, very severe. We bring it to the level of severe, and then we bring it to the level of milder, and then we bring it to the level of very mild. So on all the four, we need to sort of start reducing their impact, and in that process, our life will become much better. More peace of mind, more tranquility, more bliss, self-confidence. Inferiority complex will vanish. The fear factor will go. Uncertainty will go. And we will integrate ourselves into a more homogeneous personality. And that will be a win-win situation. So we hope that we will get inspired in these 10 days to spend more and more time in analyzing all those things and going for the inner purification from Bahir-Atma to Unter-Atma, and do meditate on the Paramatma, the qualities which we ultimately want to acquire. So this Dasalakshan Parva, this flowering of inner self with the 10 petal, works on two fronts. It gives solution to our day-to-day problem. It gives us the skills to handle those problems much more effectively, to bring us the peace and tranquility and joy and happiness. And in the long term, it also works on our spiritual goals. So this really is a two-in-one solution, and I hope we get enough wisdom to utilize it in both ways. Om.
jainworld.com 25 years of service to Jainism.